Hello and welcome to our latest summer refresher course. My name is Stuart Wilson. I'm the B2B Corporate Marketing Director at Key Group, and I'm going to take you through a few pointers on today and also the other summer refresher courses that we have been running. I've got scheduled coming up. If you were on the previous refresher course last week on the 4th of August, you might want to skip forward a minute or two because I'm going to cover some housekeeping points that you will have heard already. So just to talk a little bit about how today operates, you'll be watching all of today's content via our On24 webinar platform, and through that platform you can interact with us in a number of different ways, including the ability to ask questions. Now we will prompt you when those Q&A sessions are going to take place. They are generally at the end of each of the sessions during the day. Just to let you know, on this particular video you're watching of me now, you won't be able to interact with me directly. This isn't a live broadcast, but you can certainly interact with the rest of our speakers. And also just to let you know, in case you're unable to stay with us for all of the speaking events today, we certainly hope you can, but understand if you've got other things to do. Fear not, all of the content that we're broadcasting today, and indeed all of the content across our summer refresher courses, are going to be available on demand, so you can watch them again and catch up with presentations that you may have missed. Now, just a brief word about what our summer refresher courses are all about. Why are we doing these? Well, I think it's fair to say that this industry has been through a huge amount of change in the last few months as a result of the pandemic. And we felt it was a great opportunity right now, as people are starting to return to work, come back from furloughing and so on, to bring advisors and intermediaries across this market up to speed with all of the latest changes and also some hints and tips on how you can adapt your business in a digital world. And that point in particular is what we're going to be looking at today on this course called the Transformers. But before I come on to that, I just want to touch on the other refresher courses that we are running or have run. Last week's was called Back to the Future, and in case you missed that, that was all about really setting the scene for where we are now in terms of the market, the new market map, the changes in consumer behaviour, and also look at how vulnerability and vulnerable clients plays into this whole scenario as well. So if you did miss that content, as I said, all of that is available on demand. Next week's event on the 18th is called Rise of the Machines, and we've got some fantastic content for you there as well, including some demos of some of the tech on offer from Key Group, including a demonstration of the More to Life FastPath portal and also the air sourcing tool as well. And a brilliant debate. We're very excited about this. I will be the question master for a debate, including a panel of subject matter experts, such as Stuart Wilson, the other Stuart Wilson from the Equity Release World, CEO of Air Group, Rob Brennan from the Equity Release Experts, Rob Bowes from Iris, Mark Goodfellow from our valuation partners eServe, and also Stuart Powell from Ocean Mortgages. So you won't want to miss that as we debate the rise and deployment of technology in the later life lending market and how that is starting to shape and change the way in which we interact with customers. But today's event is called the Transformers, and today is really all about focusing in on you as advisors in your advisory firms and what you can do to help adapt and evolve your business models to face into what is likely to be, at least for the time being, an increasingly remote and socially distant world. So your marketing, the way that you communicate with your clients and your prospects has no doubt had to change drastically over the last few months as we moved through this crisis. And even as lockdown starts to ease and hopefully the virus starts to fade away, we are almost certainly going to be in this environment where we are more likely to be distant from customers than we've ever been before. So we have brought together some subject matter experts for you today to talk about the area of marketing. So how can you market yourself more effectively in a socially distant and a more remote way than you've ever done before. And we've got three great guest speakers for you today. The first that you're going to hear from immediately after I finish talking is Phil Calvert. And for those of you that have been joined us on previous events where we've had Phil speak, you'll know what a quality speaker he is and what a great subject matter expert he is. And today he's going to be talking about marketing for financial advisors in a post-COVID world. Following on after Phil, we've got Simon Martin. Simon Martin runs a marketing agency called Moorish Marketing, and Moorish specialise in financial services and specialise in B2B marketing in particular. Simon's going to be talking to you about what you can do to help shape and evolve your business, especially around digital marketing and developing a digital remote online brand. And finally, we have Jez Ray, and Jez is a presentation skills expert, and what Jez will be focusing on today in particular is using technology like this, Zoom. I'm sure many of you have started to use this technology perhaps for the first time in terms of your advice interactions with clients. And if you're anything like me, you're still getting to grips with how you best use this technology. And Jez is here today to talk you through some great hints and tips on how to look and come across really professional using this technology when you're talking to clients and prospects. So a packed agenda for you today. As I said, anything you miss, if you can't stay for all of the sessions, don't fret. You will get an opportunity to see it again on demand. And all of our guest speakers today will be joining us for Q&A sessions, so you will be able to fire in your questions to them to have them answered. You can put your questions to them at any point during their presentations just by using the Q&A tool on your dashboard, which you should see on the screen. If you've closed the Q&A window by mistake or you can't see it, just click the Q&A icon. There should be a little purple icon towards the bottom of your screen. If it's still not showing, it may well be that the Q&A panel is off to the side of your screen somewhere. You might need to scroll left or right, depending on the resolution of the screen that you're watching this presentation on. So without further ado, I'll let you get on with the rest of your day with us. Really hope you enjoy today's content. Really fabulous lineup of speakers. But for now, I'm going to hand over and leave you in the capable hands of Phil Calvert.
Hi there, my name is Phil Calvert, and a very warm welcome to today's special webinar, Marketing for Financial Advisors Post-COVID, what we've learned in 2020 so far, and what we've got to do next. My name is Phil Calvert. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know that there will be some familiar faces out there, so thank you very much for giving up your time. I would love you to stay to the end, because when you stay to the end, there'll be some free stuff, or at least I'll point you to where you can get some free stuff. So please stick around. There'll be resources that will help you in your own marketing as a financial advisor. Okay, so briefly for those that have not met before, I'm Phil Calvert, 20 years in sales and marketing and financial services with a variety of different product providers, people like Zurich Life, for example, you probably recognize. Eventually made redundant, and so I took the check and ventured out onto my own. And for the last 22 years, I've been an independent sales and marketing consultant, predominantly working with folks in highly regulated industries, like financial advisors. I created the world's first social networking platform in financial services. If you can imagine LinkedIn, but just for financial advisors, it was kind of like that. And I still run online communities for financial advisors on both LinkedIn and on Facebook as well. I've written 20 books. Most of them are about marketing. I used to be, back in the day, I used to be really keen rock concert photographer. In my late teens, early 20s, I used to get a press pass, go to the Hammersmith Odeon in London, and I used to photograph all the metal bands. There's Judas Priest top right there, ZZ Top on the bottom, something I absolutely loved until my dad told me that I needed to get a proper job, and I went straight into financial services. And my claim to fame is that there was a time when I was officially the world's best gin and tonic maker. I was given on a train trip somewhere through Scotland, I found myself sat next to a gentleman who turned out to be John Tanqueray, a member of the Tanqueray family, and he told me how to make the perfect gin and tonic on this long train journey. And a few years later, I entered the World Cocktail Making Championships in London. All the best guys and girls from the bars around the world all descended on this hotel in London. I entered the gin and tonic category and won it. So I would imagine there'll be a few of you who would like to know that recipe, but that's not really why we're here today. But drop me a line if you're interested. Okay. Let me introduce you to this gentleman here, Ernest Charles Prudence. Ernest was an entrepreneur. He was an expert at what he did. His passion was golf, and he was a really, really keen networker. Ernest was an engineer. If he was alive today, he died in about 1956. If he was alive today, he would his LinkedIn profile would show that he was the founder and managing director of the New Pelopone Engine Company in Leeds. He built engines. Now, he was an engineer, and an engineer of considerable global repute. He used to make aircraft engines during the war more efficient. He was offered a knighthood for that. But there are a few other things that Ernest did as well. Ernest was the inventor of a variety of things that we all know. He invented hydraulics, he invented the dimmer switch, and bless him, he invented the dishwasher. Don't we all love Ernest now? And because he was an engineer, he used to hang out with other engineers of his day. One of the people was this gentleman on the left, who was also, by coincidence, his next-door neighbour, and that is Barnes Wallis, Sir Barnes Wallis, the inventor of the bouncing bomb. They lived next door. My mother tells me a story because Ernest, yes, was my grandfather. My mother tells me a story of when Ernest and Barnes were in the garden, and Barnes had quite a large pond, and my mother distinctly remembers him bending down, picking up a stone off the ground and skimming it across the pond, and that's how the origins of the bouncing bomb. The gentleman on the right, Ernest used to know quite a few years earlier, is John Logie Baird, the man who is widely credited with inventing the television set. And you may know the story that when John Logie Baird first presented television to the world, a very small and select group of engineers and scientists gathered together in a room, and Ernest was in that room. So, my grandfather, very, very clever man. Technology was in his core at the time, long before the internet. But he also believed very, very strongly in the concept that people buy people before they buy anything else. You can be the best expert in the world in your chosen field, but unless a potential client or prospect buys into you first, the chances are you're going to lose that particular sale, that particular opportunity. So something to remember as we move forward. Okay, let's have a look at today's agenda. We're going to look at what we've learned from 2020 so far. Wow, what a year. I'm going to have a look at the sort of marketing activities that actually work for financial advisors in the current environment and in the future environment, or what doesn't work. But we're also going to look at this concept of being able to generate predictable leads. Lead generation for most financial advisors is a bit hit and miss, whether you purchase leads or wherever they come from. Wouldn't it be great if we could get to a position where lead generation was a predictable activity? You could do certain activities that would all but guarantee new leads would come in. So what have we learned in 2020 so far? So in my groups for financial advisors, what's been really interesting to see right from the very beginning of lockdown was how different financial advisors approached what was going on. Everybody working from home. And what turned out to be really interesting is that the financial advisors who were really quick to contact their clients, whether that was investment clients, protection clients, mortgage clients, pension clients, quick communication was critical. More as a human being doing the right thing than anything else. And it turned out from the conversations that I've had with financial advisors that most clients were really, really grateful that the advisor had made really quick and early communication. They weren't particularly concerned about the mortgage market. They weren't particularly concerned about the investment market. And as you'll remember at the time, the investment market was all over the shop. Clients just wanted communication. And a financial advisor getting in touch on the phone or on Zoom or whatever went down really, really well. There are still, I understand, financial advisors who still haven't contacted any clients at all. And that's not going to do them any favors over the medium to long term. So we noticed that quick communication, well, any communication was really, really important. Quick communication was really, really important. And this has shown a lot of financial advisors the value of communication. I know that sounds like a no-brainer, but the financial advice community is not known for its regular high-value communications. I know that sounds like a broad, sweeping statement, but we as a profession are not very good at high-value communications. So those that have made the effort to communicate with their clients frequently and quickly have discovered that's actually given them all sorts of other benefits. So they plan to increase the level of communication, whether that's through additional newsletters, additional phone calls, webinars maybe. It has really, really paid off. And as I said, that sounds like a no-brainer, but it's something worth stressing. Communication also needs to be sincere. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, let me show you this. Tom Fishburne is known as the marketunist, and he takes marketing issues and puts them into regular cartoons. And I think this kind of says it all. How many of us had emails from brands saying, oh, they really care of us, they're here for us, all those TV adverts that we saw. Yes, it was quite nice at the time, but the more we look at it, the more we realize it actually wasn't particularly sincere. So sincere communication that is consistent over a time, not we just happen to turn up once a year, it really is important that we get this one right. What's 2020 taught us so far? It seems that electronic advice works just fine. Long before the internet, I was working with financial advisors, and there was, as the internet started to appear, there were one or two people saying, a time will come where we give financial advice online. And everybody in the industry crossed their arms, shook their head and said, no, that's not going to work, not going to happen. The only way that financial advice can be given is face-to-face. Well, it turns out that's not right. Turns out that electronic advice works just fine. Turns out that lots of people really valued it as well. Yes, there are downsides, we'll come on to that, but it turns out this is, and so the inevitable has been accelerated. More and more people are now doing online financial advice, and we're going to see that more and more. Now, it's not going to be ideal for every particular client, and I think we'll probably, over the coming months, certainly years, we'll have a sort of blended approach to how we work with people. But the fact that electronic advice does work has opened a few doors for a lot of people. A lot of financial advisors are telling me that they are now getting referrals from clients that perhaps some of their younger relatives. It's certainly opened up. So referrals have gone up, but they're coming from people who might not otherwise have chosen to work with a financial advisor. There are a lot of people who don't want to go and sit with a financial advisor face-to-face. But if they could do it online, they feel much more comfortable doing that. One thing that comes out of this, and this will be apparent in the session from Jez Ray, is that this is a new communication skill that we need to learn. We can't just, well, we can just turn on our webcam, but really we want to try and work on how we communicate with people through the electronic medium. And it's simple, obvious things like getting command of the technology and knowing how it works. Getting your camera technique right. So for simple things like having your camera at the same level as your eye line, rather than looking down or the camera looking up at people. Work on this stuff, experiment with it until you can get it right. Think about the environment. I know a lot of people have been working from their kitchen tables. That's fine. but we just need to be conscious of the environments behind us. Quite easy to do green screen these days. It's worth investing in a few lights. These days you can get some really inexpensive equipment from Amazon, and it will make an instant difference to how you are perceived and how you present yourself online. Also, one of the main skills is listening to people. It's a two-way thing, Zoom. If you're using Zoom, or if you're using Skype, or if you're using Microsoft Teams, something like that, I would urge people to really just invest a little bit of time in getting command of the technique and the technology and the camera techniques, and get some lighting, make it look good, make it look professional. As I said, you can just rock up, you can do it on your mobile phone, that's absolutely fine, but this is going to be with us now for the long term, so we might as well learn how to do it properly, yeah? What else has come out of 2020? Well, new opportunities. The very fact that some people are doing business, are doing fact finds, they're doing financial advice online, it has opened new doors. People are receiving new inquiries. Some financial advisors are beginning to realize, actually, there's a whole potential new business model here. Some are saying, I've only ever done advice face-to-face, but perhaps I could build a new business model specifically aimed at people who only want online advice. So we're beginning to realize, and this isn't just about engaging with clients and prospects, we're using this technology to engage with our professional introducers as well. So build relationships with them, and I'm going to show you a way to do this as we go through this today. And one thing I think really quite important is that as part of those communications to clients, actually tell people that you now offer online advice. Put it on your website. I saw one financial advisor on LinkedIn. She changed the big, the big background image at the top of your LinkedIn profile. She changed that and added some wording that says, now offering online financial advice. And she said she instantly got some inquiries. So don't just assume that people know that you can do this online. Actually tell them and dress it up as part of your value proposition. So let's look at some marketing aspects. What could we do to really build on marketing that we already do? One of the problems with financial advisors is a lack of strategy. I wouldn't say it's just financial advisors, it's right across the regulated environment. We get this sort of random acts of marketing. I'll give that a go, I'll give that a go. And we get this sort of thing going on. A lot of people will have us believe that this is how we should be marketing ourselves these days. We need to be on Instagram, we need to be on YouTube, we need to be blogging, we need to have our own Facebook group, we've got to have a podcast as well. I get it, I understand why people would say that, but all we're really doing is adding to the noise of social media and the internet. And you and your expertise, you really don't want to be part of that noise. You want to stand above it. Be more professional than that. Pick your lane. If you think that YouTube is the way to go, that's where your ideal clients are, then use YouTube and stick to YouTube and get really good at it. If you think that email newsletters are the right way for you to go, learn how to do email newsletters properly. Get the right kit. There's plenty of books out there on this as well, but stick to your lane. Understand what your client wants, how your prospects, your ideal prospects, like to hear information, and choose one, maybe two lanes and stick to those, because this simply isn't, it really isn't sustainable over the long term. It really, really isn't. Okay, let's have a look at a few things that we need to be thinking about. The problem with financial advisor marketing is you tend to get unpredictable results. We have become far too reliant on referrals. The whole referral mechanism is being disrupted by the internet as well. In the old days, somebody would refer somebody and they would just phone them up the next day. It doesn't really happen that these days. First thing people do these days is go online. So referrals, we're relying too much on that, and our random acts of marketing are resulting in unpredictable results. They're not scalable. It's all too random. It's pretty ineffective, and that just results in this constant hamster wheel going around. That we've got to be looking for the next client, and it's just stressful. So what else could we do? What we could do is start thinking about ways of doing marketing that get predictable results, that are actually scalable, that are not random but much, much more strategic and planned, that are actually effective time after time after time, so that we get to a point where we're doing marketing that we know just works, and that makes us feel much more confident. Now, there's some research that's been done by myself and by Michael Kitzes, and he's a sort of financial advisor, business development guru over in the United States, and there are two distinct types of marketing that work for different types of financial advisors. If you are a high-performing financial advisor, maybe very experienced, you've got a good business going on there, these are the things in order which tend to have worked pretty well over the years. Referrals, writing books, seminars, webinars and client events, web listings, introducers, LinkedIn, search engine optimization, and having funnel websites giving away lead magnets. That's the sort of website where you arrive on the website, you see there's a free download, you give them their email address. And higher performing financial advisors also tend to use agencies and consultants. For financial advisors that are either just getting going or maybe they're struggling a bit, these tend to be the things that have traditionally worked quite well. Yes, referrals, introducers, local advertising, web listings, seminars, webinars and client events, good old-fashioned networking, you know, things like BNI, that sort of thing, LinkedIn, writing content, that's blogs, and we're starting to see financial advisors writing books as well. I know of at least 10 financial advisors who are writing books as we speak. And good old-fashioned, old-school, non-digital marketing, things like sponsoring roundabouts, sponsoring the local kids' football team, those kind of things. Now, let's put a bit more flesh on the bones. These are all very well, but it's important that we have an understanding of whether or not these things are going to be, you know, it's great having a marketing activity that's really, really effective, but have we got the budget as well? So I'm going to give you a bit of a chart here. In an ideal world, we want to have a marketing activity that ticks certain boxes. In an ideal world, they need to be low cost, they need to be effective, and in an ideal world, they need to be predictable as well. So let's just have a brief look at this. We don't need to look at it in too much detail. So, for example, let's just take the top line. Networking, yeah, it's pretty low cost. We've got to get somewhere, that's not very expensive. It's easy to do. The results are not predictable. It's not particularly scalable because you can only be in one place at one time. Is networking effective? Pays you money, you take your choice. Some people say it is, some people swear by it, some people say it isn't. What about LinkedIn? Is it low cost? Yes, you can do it for free. Is it simple? Well, it is if you know what you're doing, but for most people it isn't simple. Is it predictable? No. Is it scalable? Yes, there's a variety of ways you can make LinkedIn scalable. Is it effective? Yes. What about seminars? Is it low cost? Not particularly, not till you've done a few and you've figured out the model. What are seminars simple to do? Well, they are when you know how, so let's say no. Are the results predictable? Yes. If you get it right, they always work. Are seminars scalable? Yes. Are they effective? Yes. And let's just look at one more. How about books, writing a book? Are they low cost? Yeah. Costs you time, that's all. Is it simple to do? No, it's quite hard work to write a book. Do you get predictable results? Yes. Every financial advisor who's got a book out there says the results, it's amazing what it does for their business. Is it scalable? Not particularly, unless you can get your book all around the world. And is it effective? Yes. So that just gives you a sense of it. I want to look at one more. How about social media? Is it low cost? Yes, it's pretty well free. Is it simple? Yes. Are the results predictable? Definitely not. Is it scalable? Depends whether you've got some advertising budget. Is it effective? Who knows? Most financial advisors tend to use social media to interact, engage with other financial advisors. So, again, you pay your money, you take your choice. But what about this? This one at the bottom, do you think? So I've just highlighted three there that work. Low cost and effective, LinkedIn. Low cost and effective, referrals. Low cost and effective, books. So you could argue that for most financial advisors, those are the routes to go down. And although I said earlier we are over-reliant on referrals, there's a right way to do referrals and there's a wrong way to do referrals. If you would like a resource on how to teach you to get more and better referrals, just drop me a line, philip@philipcalvert.com. So what's that one down the bottom with the question mark? Webinars. Now, I can convince any financial advisor in the world that they should be doing seminars. They won't be doing seminars right now, but webinars are still relatively new in the UK, certainly in the UK. But look at this, they tick every single box. Are they low cost to put on? Yes, pretty well free. Are they simple to do? Yes, just follow a particular format. Are the results predictable? Yes. You do these well, they always work. You always get inquiries. Are they scalable? Most definitely. And are they effective? Yes. Wow. When you look at that, you'd be forgiven thinking, well, why isn't every financial advisor doing webinars? I think it is largely because we've not really thought about it. We've all been on somebody else's webinar, but have we put on a webinar ourselves? So I'm just going to spend a few minutes just talking about how you might go about doing a webinar. I mean, this is, you know, I could do a whole day's workshop on putting on webinars, but let's just cover the key points that you really need to know. So here's the thing. The benefits of doing webinars for financial advisors is you could have a marketing strategy that just uses webinars. And that means you can spend just 1 hour a month doing your marketing. That's if you were to put on one webinar a month. And for a lot of financial advisors, they might think, well, that's a bit too much. But even if you did one a quarter, that's pretty easy and pretty doable. It's really cheap to do. It's really, you know, I'm a great believer in seminars and workshops, but with a webinar, you don't actually have to go anywhere. You can do it from your back bedroom, do it from your kitchen. You're speaking one to many. It automatically attracts the right attendees. I mean, you know, only people who are interested in the topic you're going to be talking about will register. You are sharing value, and you are the expert sharing that value. And at the end of a webinar, there is a natural next step that happens. So this ticks a lot of boxes. Now, there tend to be 6 different types of webinar. There's the sort of webinar a bit like we're doing right now. It's just information. Nobody's got their cameras on. I'm speaking for 40, 45 minutes, something like that. It's pretty simple. So that's model number 1. The second type of model is the information and upsell. Now, if you've been on any webinars, particularly webinars that are put on from people in the United States, the idea is to give you some value through information. So about 3/4 of the webinar is just pure value and information, and then there's an upsell. There's an offer at the end. We all know that. The value you are being given is completely free, so, you know, one way or another, there's going to be an upsell, something to buy at the end. The next model is traditional screen share to a large group of people with no cameras. So again, it's sort of similar to this sort of thing that we're doing right now, and you could do that through Zoom. Another model is what's called a boardroom briefing, where you have a small group, 10 people absolutely maximum. Everybody's got their cameras on, but the same information is being presented. So that's another model. It's much more bespoke, if you like. People can get to know each other, build a relationship. It tends to work better if you, I don't know, maybe you're targeting executives, chief executives, something like that. That's the sort of thing that they would appreciate attending. And they do. Trust me, they do. The next model is a big screen. That's like a big interactive whiteboard type thing where you see the speaker as well, and they're drawing on the screen. Large group, no cameras on. Just the only camera that's on is the speaker. And then the final model tends to be, again, the smaller thing, but with the big screen. Small group, cameras on. Those tend to be the models. So for most financial advisors, the one in yellow there would probably be the route to go, where you show a set of PowerPoint slides. You've got people who are registered to attend. No one's got their cameras on. Could ask questions if you want them to. It's entirely up to you. And what you can also have is you, the speaker, visible in one of the corners. So that's something that most financial advisors could do. Now, the first one, top left, and the green one, they tend to get very, very high levels of engagement. The big screen one with the whiteboard, you tend to get engagement in the high 90%. But most of these, if you do it well, the information is good quality, you present it clearly, you will get people want to talk to you afterwards. In many ways, exactly the same as putting on a typical seminar. Exactly the same benefits of putting on a seminar or a workshop. We're just doing it online instead. And of course, in the current environment, that's going to be much more appropriate. Again, just a few more thoughts on this. Those of you that have been using Zoom, Zoom has got a webinar facility built into it. Zoom, as you know, is free up to about 40 minutes. I think they've recently increased that. I might be wrong, but I think I heard they've increased it. But if you want to do a webinar, it costs you 30 quid, and you can do as many webinars as you like over the course of a month. So £30 investment is a kind of no-brainer. You want to make sure your webinar is no longer than 90 minutes. Watching something online is quite hard going for the audience and quite hard going for the speaker if it's anything over that. So about 90 minutes, absolute maximum. No faffing around. What you tend to see with a lot of US-based webinars is the first 10, 15 minutes is a lot of background. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm speaking. Just get on with it, yeah? That people are there for the information and for the value. They do want to hear about you, but try and do that throughout the presentation. There's got to be to get people to sign up, they've got to see what's in it for them. So there could be a specific, explicit benefit in the title. And you've obviously got to do some promotion as well, which we haven't really got time to talk about today. But these are things you need to be thinking about. What do I mean by a specific, explicit benefit in the title? This is, if I was putting on a webinar to my internet marketing clients on how to use webinars, this is the title of the webinar that I would use. How my internet marketing clients in 19 time zones around the world are using webinars to predictably generate quality inbound new client inquiries. So marketing folks in a variety of different organizations, if they're looking for new lead inquiries, this title speaks to them. That's how so it's got to be absolutely clear, no fluffy stuff. Typically speaking, your agenda will follow this kind of format. So you'll start with a welcome. You'll encourage people to stay to the end, just as I did at the beginning of this presentation, and you incentivize people for staying to the end. Say, look, there'll be something free for you at the end if you stay to the end. You explain who this webinar is for. Then, yes, you do have a little bit about you and your journey, but you try and get over this in about a minute. A lot of people take 10, 15 minutes to do this. It's really important that people buy into you. Do you remember what I was saying, what Ernest was saying? People buy people, even online on webinars. So people need to get a bit of an understanding of who you are, what you're about, how you came to be where you are today. Then you need to sort of brief highlight what's going on in the market. So perhaps you're talking about equity release or doing a webinar on equity release for sake of argument. Yeah, you'd need to just sort of briefly highlight what's going on in the market, what's happened, explain key issues, the problems that people face, and why equity release could be a solution. Then a really, really important thing is you need to break down people's belief patterns. And what I mean by that is their inbuilt objections. Some people will naturally come to your webinar thinking they're going to sit there with their arms crossed thinking, well, come on, convince me. So in your presentation, you need to actually address the things that you know they are concerned about or worried about when it comes to, say, equity release. So cover those common myths as well. Also include the downsides. Some of the things, don't make it all too rosy because, people think this is too good to be true. They naturally won't believe you. So cover the common myths, but also say that, there are some downsides. This doesn't work for this type of person. This doesn't work for this type of person. And they will appreciate that. Give some case studies and proof of concept. Offer your freebie at the end. Show them where they can get that from, and that will usually be from your website, yeah? And perhaps offer a free consultation call. That is, broadly speaking, the overview of a typical webinar that you might want to do. It's what happens after the webinar that's also quite cool. So what do we want people to do? We want them to book a call with us. So if you don't already use a tool like Calendly that links into your diary, That's what we want. We're going to get a call booked with you. So they've watched the webinar, they've got great value, they've got their freebie, they may be thinking now, perhaps I ought to be talking to you. It's exactly the same model as putting on a real seminar or a workshop. The whole point of a seminar is to educate people, so they come up to you afterwards and say, that was really great, how do we progress from here? Yeah? We need to manage and set expectations. I'll explain by that what I mean here. And you need to say to people explicitly, here's what will happen when we talk. So that they don't just think they're booking a call and it might end up as a sales call. You need to clarify to people what's actually going to happen when you talk. So many people do this thing, book a call with me, free 15 minutes, free half an hour, whatever it is. But if you actually say to them, I'm not going to try and sell you something. Here's what will not happen. Here's what I will need from you. And you ask them to agree to certain conditions. So let's say after the webinar, they go to your website. What you want to actually say to them is that you are serious and you are expecting them to be serious. And so you could put this kind of agreement on your website, saying, yes, I understand the primary reason for meeting with Sue is to find out if there's a fit between my needs and what she offers. Yeah, I confirm that if Sue and I agree that working together is a good idea, I'm ready to start fairly soon or whenever. I'm aware that Mike or Sue will not charge a fee for the initial call, but that his or her fees for working together are X, Y, Z. So in other words, what we're trying to do here is to filter out the potential time wasters. I'm sure you do not want time-wasting phone calls, so putting stuff like this is absolute. So the people who are reasonably serious about wanting to learn more about this, they'll be more than happy to agree to those sort of conditions. Now, what sort of content could you put? I would strongly urge you to ask your clients, do a survey, if we were to put on a webinar, what would you like to hear about? And another way to find out what your clients are interested in is to really listen closely to your clients. I would suggest, try and do this from today, every single question that you are ever asked by a client, whether it's on the phone or in person, write it down. Put a little notebook together and try and write down. I mean, you already know the sort of common questions that clients ask you. Write them down, because those questions are absolutely priceless. They give you information about the things that concern potential clients, the things that worry them potentially, the things that they might want educating more on. So build up a bank of questions that people typically ask. There's a great book on this called They Ask, You Answer, about how to create social media content, how to create services, how to create webinars based around the things that concern your clients. We tend to take for granted that when a client asks a question, we tend to answer it. What we tend not to do is just to make a note of it and listen carefully to it, because that's a clue to the sort of things that they might want more information about. There's also a great website called answerthepublic.com where you type into the little search box a topic. So you could type in pensions, or you could type in mortgages, or you could type in life assurance, and it will show you a list of all the questions that people type into search engines around those topics. So there instantly you'll get a really interesting feel for the sort of things that people actually care about. And also, as well as creating content for webinars and social media posts, you could create lead magnets. So it's the same question about, say, equity leads keeps coming up. You could create a little short guide that answers that question. Give it away free on your website in exchange for someone's email address. Another little tool that is absolutely amazing. This is my discovery of the year. It's a thing called Scorecard, and I'm going to invite you to take a look at my scorecard a little bit later on. Basically what it is you can create a set of questions, simple yes-no questions or multiple choice questions, based around your area of expertise. So, for example, I've put together a thing called the LinkedIn Health Check, and it is a scorecard. And when you go visit the link, it asks you a whole bunch of questions about how you use LinkedIn and how you use the different features on LinkedIn. You answer the questions, yes, no, a few multiple choice ones, and then at the end it gives you a score that tells you how well you are using LinkedIn. Now, to me, This could be absolutely invaluable for financial advisors. You're only limited by your own imaginations in terms of the questions that you could ask people. And you only need 4 or 5 questions, or if you want to, you can have 50, 60 questions, entirely up to you. But when people take your scorecard, they give you their email address, and that gives you a lead. Now, we've talked about lead magnets in the past, we've talked about briefly today. If somebody has taken the trouble to answer your scorecard and given you their email address in the process, that is someone who is open to a potential conversation in the future. So if anybody wants to know more about scorecard, please do drop me a line, philip@philipcalvert.com, and I'll be more than happy to show you some other examples of how these are being used. But let me tell you that people who are using scorecard, they are bringing in new leads at the rate, well, at an incredible rate. I came across a lady the other day who's like a personal branding coach, and she said she's picked up 400 inquiries in 2 weeks since launching her own scorecard. So on her scorecard, it asks people questions about, do you have your own logo? Do you have your own website? Do you have your own personal merchandise? This kind of stuff, simple sort of thing. And at the end, it gives them a score, and it gives them suggestions for how they might want to improve. One of those suggestions for how they might want to improve is a consultation call with her. Absolutely brilliant. It's my marketing discovery of the year. As we start to wrap up, I want to revisit something I've talked about before. Financial advisors are wasting phenomenal numbers of their website visitors. Website designs look pretty, they look great, but they're not converting people into clients or prospects at the rate they should. We are wasting far too many visitors. So I want to show you another tool which is only just starting to get going in the UK. And where it has been going, it tends to be used by only really quite large corporates. And it's called Managed Live Chat. There's no automation, so you've probably been on websites before where a little box pops up and says, "Hi, can we help you?" and something like that. And 99% of the time, that is a bot, artificial intelligence. You ask a question, the artificial intelligence answers it. So those of you that you go onto BT's website or Vodafone or something like that, big service providers, the help tool there is usually run by a bot, and it takes you a month or some days to get through to an actual human. There is a new tool in the UK called Milu, which has real-life people who answer the questions. And what you do is when you set up your Milu account, you give them a list of questions that people typically ask you, like, what hours of the day? Can you do home visits? Can you do online visits? Simple things. So you put down a list of questions and you put down a list of answers. Now, I use Milu on my website, and in the time that I've been using it, which is about a month, I have been absolutely blown away by the response to this. People use it. The service that Milu offer is absolutely phenomenal. Now, I'm so impressed with this. I think every financial advisor in the UK should be using this. There are quite a number of accountants in the UK who are using it, and they are just absolutely blown away by how impressive it is. But I've been using it, and I've been blown away as well. I've had some amazing inquiries coming through this. Now, normally they'll do a 14-day free trial, but I've been in touch with them and said, look, I'm doing this webinar today. Could we give financial advisors a longer free trial? So if you go to that link, they'll give you a 30-day free trial. It's really easy to set up. They talk you through how to do it. The service is absolutely astonishing. And basically what this is going to do is going to capture the people who might otherwise have left your website. You may already have an inquiry form on your website, but trust me, a real-life person interacting and engaging with them is much, much more effective than a contact form. So go to that. That's an L, not an I, so it's lddy.no/05L8. If you have any problems, just send me an email and I'll send you the link. Managed Live Chat, I think, is going to be an absolute game changer for financial advisors' websites. So let's go back to where we started. My grandfather, somebody who was a real expert in his area, loved his technology, but kept saying to people that the technology has been great, but it's people that underpin it. Social media and marketing for financial advisors is about people. The technology is the facilitator of communication. It is so, so important to remember that. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate it. I hope you found something useful here. So what can I do to help you? If you go to linkedinsuccess.scoreapp.com, you'll be able to take my LinkedIn health check. And when you take the LinkedIn health check, it'll ask you a number of questions about how you personally use LinkedIn. It will give you a score, and it will give you some suggestions for what you can do to improve your score and therefore make better use of LinkedIn and actually attract more of the clients that you really want. When you complete the test, at the very end, there'll be a free download for you, a social media strategy planner. It's a fantastic document. You'll find it really, really useful, absolutely free. And for everybody that takes the LinkedIn Success Score app, I will do a draw, and I will pick one at random from everybody who takes the test, and I will send you a copy of my brand new book, LinkedIn Lead Generation for Financial Advisors. It only came out last week, so this is hot off the press. I'll send somebody a copy of that, so I hope you find that useful. So thank you so much today. I really appreciate you taking time, and I think we're going to take some questions now. Be great to help you out. Thanks a lot. So thank you very much for listening, everybody. If you have any questions, I'll be very happy to help you with them. Just type them into the Q&A box, and we can answer them for you live right now. So if there was anything you didn't quite understand today, or if you've got a burning question but wanted to ask, now's your chance. We will make sure that you get a copy of the slides. Thank you very much, Guy. That's much appreciated. John asks, what's the best way to start as a sole trader on your own? My goodness me. There's a mountain of different ways, and I would go back if I would start with, who do you know already? Build together a group of contacts who know you, like you, and trust you. Start building relationships with them, so that you've got some automatic referrals coming in straight away. I would, to be honest, really start with the basics and start thinking about who's your absolute ideal market, and pretty well try and put your focus onto just them and only them, being really, really clear about, they call it your ideal client avatar, which is a bit fancy, but it's basically, if your dream client walked in through the door today, what would he or she look like? What do they worry about? Where do they go on holiday? What newspapers do they read? What age are they? What do they do for a living? Knowing this kind of detail is so, so important, so that your marketing has some real focus to it. One of the problems with a lot of financial advisors' marketing is it's like I mentioned earlier, you do these random acts of marketing when really we should be doing activities that absolutely focus on the people you actually want to work with. I could talk all day about what to do. We just get started. I've got another book out there called Marketing for Financial Advice Professionals, which has got about 50, 60 different things that you could try. So please do take a look at that. Jan O'Neill, the answer is yes. There is coaching available if you want to. James, can you explain how the scorecard works within LinkedIn in a bit more? So the scorecard thing, it can be on any topic you like. So if maybe you sell fishing gear for sake of argument, you could create a scorecard and create questions based around fishing. How often do you go fishing? What sort of fish do you like to catch? What sort of equipment? How long? So, and then you can give people a score based on whatever basis you like, and then at the end, give them something free. The beauty of the scorecard is that people who it is aimed at just love a few questions. You could have 10 questions, 100 questions, simple yes, no, multiple choice. So my LinkedIn scorecard, it just asks you how you use LinkedIn, and then it gives you a score. Have you got a photo? Do you put status updates? Have you got a company page? Simple things like that, and at the end it gives you a score and a report. So anybody in any industry can use the scorecard. Thank you very much, Lee. That's very much appreciated. Let's go just up here. Please mention the Ask website again. It's called scoreapp.com. Got any problems finding it? Just drop me a line, philip@philipcalvert.com, and I'll send you a link to that. Let me see. John, I did this last week, so good to know I'm in the right direction. Fantastic. Steve asks, we're a small mortgage broker, just myself and my wife. What marketing would you suggest to ensure we don't get a deluge of inquiries and can't deal with them all? We like to offer a highly personalized service and don't want to hire new staff. That's a really, really great question. It's interesting. We could talk about lead generation all day. And what I've not talked about is doing things like Facebook advertising, because if you get your Facebook advertising right, you will have a deluge of inquiries, and that's not what most financial advisors want. What you tend to want is the quality and in a manageable number. So in normal times, I would suggest getting out there and putting on a seminar, because then you can pretty well pick and choose who you want to work with. And in many ways, the same thing goes for webinars as well. That's why I mentioned at the end, you want to have these sort of filtering questions. What you don't want is people phoning up saying, oh, I saw your webinar the other day. You couldn't just tell me if I'm being, I don't know, ripped off on my credit card charges. These aren't the sort of people you want. You want the people who are serious, the people who are genuine about wanting to talk to you and taking it forward. So any kind of one-to-many kind of presentation, be it a seminar or a webinar or even a podcast for that matter, you can then filter the inquiries. So if they come in, say, could you just run us over a few things? You could say, you could either refer it on to somebody else or say, we're not taking on any more clients at the moment. Whatever wording kind of works best for you to help work for you. Vicky wants the gin and tonic recipe. Thank you, Vicky. Send me an email and I'll point you where you can get that from. I've got a couple here I think I've missed. Would you charge business owners to attend a webinar or seminar? If yes, how? Thank you, Sue. That's a really good question. So let's start with seminars. I know a financial advisor in Weston-super-Mare came across 10, 15 years ago, and he would put on a seminar every 3 months locally, generic financial advice stuff. And he would get almost 90-95% conversion rate, and that's on a free seminar. And by conversion, I mean people would come up to him afterwards, or they'd phone him up a few days later and say, could we work together? Then a couple of years later, he said, well, I wonder what would happen if I started charging people to attend the seminar. I wonder if that would put people off. Actually, when he started charging £97 a head, he said more people wanted to come, and a different type of person wanted to come. And then he suddenly realized, my goodness, I've still got 50 people in the room, and they're all paying £97 each. He said, this is a brilliant business model. Not only are people paying to be prospects, but they are paying to get high-value presentations. So it does work. Chargeable webinars is a different game altogether. I would be inclined to do that for once you've got used to doing a few free webinars just to attract leads, then start offering chargeable webinars later down the line as a high-value additional service that you offer. And that would be to a small group of people predominantly. Let's see what else we've got. Thank you, Andrew. Much appreciated. I think that's about it. Yeah, I think that's it for now. So if anybody, any last-minute ones, I'll stick around for a little bit longer. Otherwise, please drop me a line, philip@philipcalvert. No more questions, I don't think. Let's make sure I've got every single one of them. Would you charge business owners? I think we're there. I think we're all done. So thank you very much for your time today. Very much appreciated, and hopefully see you next time.